minus 10 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to The State with Zach Chehi and Terry James, covering sports, tech, entertainment news, and everything in between, with special call-in guest Mike Chehi. This is episode number 2, recorded on Tuesday, March the 20th. Welcome to episode number 2. I guess we're going to get right into with Terry gloating about his little Broncos pick.
Well. Would you look at me? I mean, my favorite subject is me. You know this, Zach.
Yeah.
You do know this. And I'm pretty positive that it was last week that one Zach Chehi told me, no, Peyton Manning will never go to the Broncos. And I think it was also one Zach Chehi that told me that Tim Tebow would not be traded in the process.
Yeah, I honestly didn't follow what happened with Tebow. Where did Tebow ended up
he has not been traded yet. That has not happened.
What are the options?
It's all speculation at this point.
Okay. I do want to say, everybody, we have a special guest. My brother, of course. That makes him special. Mike Chehi is on the line. My brother is definitely a sports person, so I definitely want to bring him in and try to counteract the Terry effect here.
I'm telling you, this is killing me. I mean, I've had one Chehi, now I'm getting a second Chehi. Now they're just going to gang rape me.
Exactly.
This is bad.
Now, what happens? Bad. What happens? Mike? What do you think the chances of Tebow becoming second? What do you call it? Second string.
Well, first of all, keep in mind that he hasn't been traded yet. I mean, it's imminent, but he hasn't been traded yet. And I think the chance of him being traded, it's probably 80%. I don't think it's a good fit. And I think the main thing that the Broncos need to do right now is basically divorce themselves from Tebow, because they need to divorce themselves from Tebow mania. It's going to become too big of a distraction. And it's not going to be a good marriage for him and Peyton Manning at this point, because they're just so vastly different. Even though he can learn a lot from Peyton Manning, I just think they're so vastly different right now, and the learning curve is too deep. That's best for him to go someplace where he's going to be wanted and desired, someplace like Jacksonville, maybe Miami, places where, in Jacksonville, for example, they've got that huge stadium, and they actually use tarps to cover a lot of the empty seats there. So it would be nice if they could remove those tarps and have those seats filled, because that's one thing he will do.
That's a very good point. Absolutely. Not to mention, you're figuring that at this point they're speculating that he's probably going to draw about a 5th round draft pick. I mean, if I'm the Denver Broncos, I'm jumping on that immediately, because, hey, the way I see things with Tim Tebow, what did he get it going last year? Sure, but in my opinion, hey, that Broncos defense kept them in games over and over and over. If I can get a 5th round pick for Tim Tebow, I'm taking it.
I'm going to have to disagree there, because think about this. Before Tim Tebow became, let me put this out there, I'm not a Tebow fan. However, he did win me over when he beat the Steelers. But what I will say in his defense...
Do you believe that there was divine intervention?
No, there was not
divine intervention with the defense.
But yeah, keep in mind, but when he took over that team, this is where people tend to lose sight of how good Tebow really was. And he has an intangible quality you can't measure, and it's really his will to make people on his team win and pull together. And I think that's how he elevated the whole team as a whole. But what you have to remember is when he took over that team as the quarterback, that team was 1-4. It wasn't because it was given to him, and he actually dropped down to 3rd string, 4th string quarterback on the depth chart. So he took over a team that was 1-4, that was mired in last place, and he gave him a lot of energy, a lot of momentum. And he was winning in the 4th quarter. So, again, he was winning ugly, but he did something that Denver hadn't done for a number of years. He made him relevant.
And it doesn't hurt the fact that your kicker can kick 60-yard field goals at will, and your defense is creating turnover after turnover after turnover. To me, hey, was he good? Was he serviceable? Sure. I mean, if you like the option quarterback, but to me, Patriots kind of figured him out in the playoffs, and that was that.
But you got to remember, too, a couple of things. He was an option quarterback. I'll give you that. But against Steelers, 316 yards. Against the Chicago Bears in the fourth quarter, 196 yards. In the fourth quarter against the Chicago Bears. And the team right now seems to have the most interest in Tim Tebow is the New England Patriots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that actually I was hearing this morning that is a strong possibility for him. I heard that same thing on the way home this morning between Jacksonville and New England, which is very odd. I'm kind of shocked on that.
It's very interesting because that's the team. New England's a team that spanked Denver the hardest this year. However, he did play really well in those games against them. He did throw well. And at the end of those games, Brady said that he respected him, what he was going through, and the amount of attention he was getting. He still played well. Belichick, had said that he respected him. Actually, they had interest in drafting him, like in the third or fourth round a couple of years ago when he was available. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely interest there, and I think he'd be potentially a great fit if he could sit behind, because I think in that system, I think where he'll do really well if he can get into a system where he can really learn and get put into the system. I think the thing for him right now is that they changed the system in Denver for him because they had no other choice. 1-4, so they changed it for him, and they just kind of went along with it, and it just kind of steamrolled into this big thing that got out of control for John Elway. So, but I think if you put him in the right team and you build a system around him and you put a couple years into that, I don't think he'll ever be a Pro Bowl player. I don't think he's ever going to be a great player, but could he be a quarterback that could get a team into the playoffs? Of course he's done it. Could he be a player that could get him into the Super Bowl? I think he could be. I think he could be a quarterback who could do that under the right system with the right players around him. And I think having a mentor like Belichick and Brady around him, I think that would be a good system for him.
Okay. Well, I want to move things along a little bit here and bring up the fact that Alex Smith, does anybody think that there's going to be a 49ers dominance this year like there was last year? And do you really think they have a chance of pretty much getting to a high level of the playoffs again, anywhere near the Super Bowl? Go ahead.
First of all, I think if they let Alex Smith go, there aren't a lot of options out there right now. A lot of the really good quarterbacks are gone. Although I think it'd be kind of curious to me and just throw it out there. It'd be interesting to see if Tebow would fit into that. But I think Alex Smith, the only reason, in my opinion, the only reason that he went to the Dolphins for a tryout is because
he was going to play against them.
Well, no.
He wants that 5-year contract with the 49ers. He was happy with the 3-year deal for money, but he wants 5 years.
Well, you remember, he was in negotiation with that contract now for a couple of months at least. It wasn't until they started flirting with Manning, the 49ers, that he all of a sudden got interested in to check out some other feelers out there, because I think he felt like the hammer was going to come down. They might have signed Manning, and I think that would have been a problem for him. And so he wanted to go out and see what the other interest level was in his services.
You have to think Alex Smith that everything's in his corner right now. Wouldn't you agree?
Wait. I got to say this because I don't know how many of you know this, but you do know that Peyton Manning and Alex Smith have the exact same agent. Now, how do you negotiate for Alex and try to give him the best deal possible when you're trying to bring your star into it and get the best deal possible for the exact same team? I know he didn't go with the 49ers, but at that time, he was looking at the 49ers. He was talking with Harbaugh when they were at Duke. Harbaugh went out there to talk to him, and you have the same agent representing the quarterback from the 49ers, trying to give him the same deal for the same team.
And he almost fired his agent.
Yeah, that's a very big conflict of interest. So what kind of money are we talking about? Now, I think they're trying to get what's Alex trying to get for 5 years, and what did Manning get going to Denver?
Well, at the moment, they've offered Alex Smith $24 million over 3 years, with about roughly $10 million guaranteed at this moment. Apparently, he's wanting a little bit longer. It's an understood. I get it, but what's he had? Maybe one good year. Last year was probably his best year so far. Exactly. To me, I think it's just one of those deals where he kind of has the 49ers right where he wants them. Colin Kaepernick is their backup, and he's about as raw as it gets. I don't think this is going to happen, but hey, I mean, if we're going to sit around and we're gonna lift the skirt up on Peyton Manning, I'm a little irritated if I'm Alex Smith, and would he leave the 49ers just for spite? Doubtful, but hey.
But I mean, to counteract that, but look at this. All he was, in my opinion, okay, so he was a first-round bust. That's what everybody's going to tell you. I mean, but I will give.
But can't this happen with any quarterback?
Well,
everybody. Well, no. This is the big thing. If you're the first-round pick everybody wants, which Alex was, 6 years ago, he was the first-round pick. He was the draft, and everybody wanted him. You're not exactly going to come from college football into the NFL and be a star. There's a chance you're not a pro ball player, right? You might get out there and they find out you're just not that type of player.
Well,
Alex Smith, for the seventh year, he finally kind of came into his own, but 6 years he was not really doing it, was he? Well,
first of all, not everybody wanted him. There's actually quite a few teams that didn't think he was should have been the first overall pick. He has a lot of deficiencies. He didn't face very good competition when he was in college, and he was not considered by many to be the number one pick. So in his defense, though, he did have something like 8 or 9 offensive coordinators in his stay there, and that's very difficult to continually learning a new system. And on top of that, he played for probably one of the worst head coaches ever, Mike Singletary. He was a terrible head coach. So I'll give that in his defense. But what I will say, that Jim Harbaugh is a really great coach. Mm-hmm. To do what he did last year with the same exact pieces that were sitting there before, and the team that didn't even sniff the playoffs, to a team that almost went to the Super Bowl, that's extremely impressive. But I will say this. Alex Smith was Jim Harbaugh's puppet. It's almost if he was moving the string to throw the ball, that's what he was doing.
And Jim Harbaugh was also he was a quarterback as well, correct?
He was a very good quarterback, and actually almost led the Colts to the Super Bowl one year. And he actually, oddly enough, Manning replaced Harbaugh. That's when Manning came into the league as a rookie in 1998. But so what I will say here about Alex Smith is that he threw 19 touchdowns last year. He had 5 interceptions, but what he played and how he played in that system was not to lose. He didn't play to win. He played not to lose. That was more of the system that he would throw in. But I will say this, at the end of the year, against the Saints, he made a couple of really great throws in the playoffs. I mean, I saw him become more of a quarterback on his own at the end. So I'm not entirely sure that they need him to go forward as much as he needs them. Because the reason why is they have so many pieces. They signed Randy Moss. They signed Mario Manningham just recently. These are 2 really great potential wide receivers to, Michael Crabtree, who's another pretty decent wide receiver who has potential being much better.
Of course,
they have Vernon Davis, who's the best tight end in the league right now.
You're forgetting the fucking tank. Gore.
Yes. Yeah, Gore's good, but as far as passing, there's a really good receiving core there. So could they take somebody like Tim Hasselback or another potential quarterback out there and plug him in there and maybe do the same thing? I think yes. But Alex Smith has really great chemistry. This is the part that's missing. He has great chemistry with the team. Everybody there loves him. They grew with him. And he's got a great rapport with Jim Harbaugh. So I think he needs to stay in the system. It's best for everybody. I think it's a great fit, and he needs to stay. But, my last point on this is that I think he needs them more than they need him.
Okay. I would agree. My only thing is, if he's so good, if he's so fantastic, then why are you sniffing around anybody else?
He's playing him. Well, that's my opinion.
Granted, you are sniffing around Peyton Manning. I mean, exactly. Let's be honest. I mean, it's not like we're talking about Tavares Jackson that they're looking at. I mean, they are looking at Peyton Manning. I get that. But at this moment, Peyton Manning is, 80%, 85% by all reports. I mean, granted, an 80% Peyton Manning is better than a 100% Alex Smith any day of the week. But with that being said, hey, he had such a great year. He did this, he did that. He threw for all these touchdowns. He was a system guy. Why are you even messing with anyone else?
Okay, well, Mike needs to drop out here, and I just want to get it real quick here. Mike, what is your predictions NCAA?
I think without question it's going to be Kentucky. Kentucky is stacked. They're loaded. They've played tremendous thus far. I think right now that they just have such a great team, and I think John Calipari, he's got these guys primed, ready to go. And besides that, Duke's out, so I don't really care.
All right, everybody who disagrees with Mike or Terry, you can email us at thestatementshow@gmail.com. Mike, thanks for joining us, and we will hopefully have you back on the show sometime soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Have a great show.
All right.
2 minutes.
Okay, Terry, 30 seconds. NCAA, what's going on?
Sweet 16, Kentucky over Indiana, Baylor over Xavier, Michigan State over Louisville, Florida over Marquette, Syracuse over Wisconsin, Ohio State over Cincinnati, North Carolina over Ohio, Kansas over NC State. Elite Eight, go ahead, give me Kentucky over Baylor, Michigan State over Florida, Kansas over North Carolina, and Ohio State over Syracuse.
Now, we're going to continue the show here. We're going to move along here a little off the sports topic. We're going to hit with the tech news. And I believe you wanted to start. What do you want to talk about here? You wanted to say something about Siri, right?
You know what? This is totally crazy to me. And you know what? I am not the tech guy. You are the man on this. But, I was checking this thing out, and it may be old news now. Maybe you know a little bit better than I do. But I saw where that New York man is suing Apple for allegedly misleading and being deceptive about Siri. I mean, how many people, which I think it's big because I know a few people myself that, actually bought the bought the iPhone 4 specifically for Siri. And you know what? They're looking at it and they're like, what was I thinking? I can't believe I just did that. I mean, what's your opinion on it?
Well, I guess what I really have to say about it is, any kind of voice recognition program is still in its infancy. Siri, Apple has announced that Siri is actually still in beta. What he's suing over is the fact that they're pretty much promoting it as a done deal. Like, this program does exactly as advertised. Number one, voice recognition of any kind does not work well if you have a really strong accent, you have any kind of speech impediments. And even when you don't, it still works 70-75% of the time. That's being generous. It's not foolproof. It's still in its infancy, and you don't expect anything to work great the first time around. Usually the tech takes a few years to mature. But voice recognition's been around for quite a while. This is not the first program that's come out that does voice recognition. There's Dragon software out there that you can do voice dictation on your computer, and you have to speak slow. You have to speak clearly. This is no different. I really don't see his lawsuit is going to get a little recognition in the news, but he's not. I really don't expect him to win. And if he does, they're not going to give him anything major.
Do you even think it makes it to court? Do you think this is just like, come on, man,
like stop. One of those frivolous lawsuits?
Right. I mean, do you think this even gets anywhere?
No. Honestly, I really don't. First of all, you got to fight. There's one man leading the charge against a giant, Apple, who has, by the way, as everybody's heard in the news, basically $100 billion in the bank. They're doing something that Steve Jobs never wanted to do. They're actually paying out $10 billion in stock dividends, which is something they haven't done ever. They started philanthropy, which is something Steve Jobs didn't do. He did it privately, but didn't announce it. He didn't announce it, which was something he felt he wanted to do and didn't want to make hay out of, which I can respect. But as a company, they are giving money away to non-profit organizations and helping out charities, which I find very commendable. But they're also going to buy some of those stock dividends back with some of that money. But as far as getting a little bit back to the Siri thing, I don't think it's going anywhere. Honestly, people sue over everything, and this is just to me one of those kind of lawsuits. This is just one of those things where it works when it wants to. It's kind of one of those apps because they have the equivalent for the Android phone as well, and it does more or less the same thing with a few exceptions. And I didn't like it. I took it off. I think it's one of those things you don't want to walk around talking to your phone all the time.
Right.
It's actually faster to type it, do it yourself. So I just don't agree with half the people out there who are always making hay out of how they don't like this app or it doesn't do what they thought it was going to do. And then you hear other people who are on the other side of the fence that love it. It's just that new little thing. And in my opinion, that was the thing that they could set apart from the other version of the iPhone, because the 4S has very, very few things that can kind of set it apart from the regular iPhone 4, which it's called the 4S. The new version's the 4S. And Siri was the one thing they could say, look, this is what we put in it. They didn't want to tell people it was a beta because then that made it sound like it's not ready. So they had to kind of put it out there like it's a done deal.
Yeah,
so,
which was my next question for you. Why do you think they even came out with this whole thing if it wasn't ready? I mean, is it a simple answer such as because they can, because they know that people are going to buy it regardless, and
yeah.
Hey, you know what?
Everybody's drinking the Apple Kool-Aid, and so when you put something out there, they don't want to. You're definitely not going to come out and say, "Oh, it's not ready." They've been working on it a long time. But they did not invent the technology. By any means did they not invent this technology. This has been around for a very long time. Actually, Google has been working on it too. And honestly, Google's been kind of beating them to the punch on a lot of products. They kind of listen to what people are complaining about with Apple, and they're like, okay, this is our chance. We're going to come out with that tech before they do and show them that we have it first. And the situation is the fact that Google does work on a lot of these projects, and I think they knew that in fact, Google does have a Siri equivalent, and I don't think they have come out with it yet because it's not ready yet. And I think for once, Apple figured we got to get this out there now before Google does, because public perception, like I follow tech news all the time, and you have to hear about it from me, but the average consumer doesn't know this stuff. All they know is when it came out that Apple had it. When they hear about Google coming out with it later, they're not going to know that they've been working on it years before this. All they're going to know is who actually had it advertised first. It's public perception. And that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, because I know when we were playing around with the Skyview there for Android, there would be a few times where it would take us to the local Subway, it would take us to the McDonald's, but then the next thing you know, we're asking it something else, and it's completely nowhere near what we were looking at.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously it's not foolproof, but are there any noticeable differences between the two? Between Skyview
there's some notable differences. Now I'm going to be upfront. I don't have an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
I have a Galaxy Nexus through Verizon, as well as you do. So neither one of us can speak intelligently on Siri. My wife has a 4G, or I'm sorry, not a 4G. She has the iPhone 4, which, by the way, that's not 4G. That is just iPhone version 4. The 4S is basically like version 2 of the same phone with a few upgrades. That's their kind of scheming things. They came out with the iPhone 3, then they came out with the 3GS. So there is no 4G iPhone yet. This next one coming out, I can't tell you what's coming out. Apple never comments on what's coming out. People predict what's coming. In fact, they get people into such a frenzy by the time Apple actually does come out with their press conference to say what's coming. People are actually disappointed because it doesn't have everything that people have been speculating, or it has a little but not what they thought it would have. And that's what Apple does. I think they have a line of things they're going to add into the phone. And what they do is they parse it out a little at a time. So every year you get a little at a time. That way if they don't come up with some major innovation, they have a little, they have oh, look, here's Siri. Or, hey, look, here's 3G. Here's 4G. They want to be able to put a little something extra in each phone to make that one set apart from the others.
Right,
so
exactly.
I really feel like you're not going to see any major innovation in the next version either. I think the biggest innovation you're going to see is 4G, obviously.
Sure.
You might see lower price on some memory upgrades, which I don't know, because they make a very good profit from these phones. So I really don't see you're going to see major differences. If we go a little bit over here to the new iPad, it's the same thing with the iPad. The big sell on the new iPad is, hey, look, we have the iRetina screen, or I might be saying that wrong, but it's basically an upgraded screen. It's like an HD screen.
But from what I understand, it does look awfully crisp.
Yeah, it does. From what I understand. Now, here's a few facts that I've read about. It's not selling out like the other ones did. You can go into a store and buy a new iPad. To me, that says a little bit. I'm not going to say a lot, but a little bit of hype of new products has kind of gone down a little bit. When you've plunked down $600-800 plus. Now, I say plus because you're going to buy accessories, and Apple is not cheap. It is a premium product. So when you go out and you buy the iPad, From what most reviewers are saying, if you have an iPad 2, are you gonna go out and buy the new iPad? Not really, no.
No.
In fact, it has Siri in the new iPad, but they're announcing it as a beta version of Siri, and it's like limited, meaning it's like a half version of Siri. And Verizon has the iPad 2, by the way, and they have a 4G LTE version of the new iPad on Verizon. I wanted to get a little bit. It has new upgraded screen, has the new A5 processor. So yeah, there are upgrades in this new unit.
Okay, hold on one second, because you are the tech guy. I'm just the big dummy here, and speak to the rest of us here that have no idea what an A5 processor. What does that even mean? Does that mean, hey, this thing is going to be lightning fast? I mean, what does that mean?
You know, that's the thing. Apple doesn't really like to talk about what they have in their systems, because for the major consumer, they don't really know what that means. The A5 processor is an ARM processor. It's the Cortex processor.
Mm-hmm.
It's the smallest. It's the lowest multi-core processor. I'm basically reading online here because I'll be honest with myself, I haven't read a lot about this processor other than it's an upgraded processor.
Okay.
So there's not a lot I can even tell you about it, other than the fact that it runs cooler. Now, that's going to be less heat, which is good for your system. That means it usually saves battery power. But there have been reports that this new iPad is getting really hot. Now, I'm interested to know, is that just the Wi-Fi version? Is it the new LTE version? Because LTE works, and it drains. It's a power-hungry radio. And what a lot of people are saying is that the battery is not as good in this new iPad on the LTE version because of obviously that it's draining it faster. So right now you're going to see reviews coming out based on battery performance. Is the Wi-Fi any different, or is there something in this that is causing the power to go down? So that's something that obviously we'll keep updated on. We'll probably bring it up later on in another show down the road here. But
I did also hear, though, that the new iPad is somewhat 50 or 60 grams heavier than the previous. Now, is that going to break your arm? No, but I mean, I guess if you were sitting there watching some movies or like at times, I mean, I know yourself when you and I are together, when we're talking, we're sitting there and we're looking at some video or whatever the case may be, and we're actually holding it in our hand, that that could get kind of heavy after a while, I would think.
Any device that you hold in your hand after a while, in any position, even holding my Nexus in my hand, anything over an extended period of time, you're going to feel it.
But does the 60 gram mean anything?
No, it's not going to have that big of a difference. That's why they come out with these cases that you can fold up that will kind of hold it in a certain position. These, to me, iPads, tablet computers, they're all in-between devices. People all keep saying, oh, it's going to replace the computer. Never is it going to replace the computer. It is a computer, but it is a portable, drag-along computer. You're never going to be the screen size is basically where you need it to be to do what you need to do. But nobody wants to type on the screen to make documents. It takes too long. It's overdrawn. You're always going to want to have that PC at home to do movie editing. It's too tedious to do on a touchscreen. You want a bigger screen, something that is more of an entertainment system. Nowadays, the computer is just that, by the way. You need something bigger to work on. You need that keyboard. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you can hook a Bluetooth up to it. That's not what I'm talking about. It's not the same thing. You're not going to have that. That's good for on the go. So to me, a tablet is kind of on the go device.
Right.
And that's where I wanted to kind of get in and talk a little bit about data plans. I want to break down the data plans a little bit for some of the people out there. All right. We have smartphones. A smartphone is basically, it can be a BlackBerry. It could be the touchscreen phones that are now pretty much the craze in all the cell phone stores. And then you have what's called a feature phone. A feature phone is more or less like a flip phone or open-face phone with a keyboard that just does special features like texting and things, but it's not really meant for surfing online. You do limited things with it. It's why they call it a feature phone. Usually much, much cheaper.
Those are the ones that are like free when you go to upgrade?
Yeah, you upgrade.
Okay.
They're basically throwing 5 of them at you. I mean,
They're literally the junk of the whole entire store. I got
They're making their money on broadband and data plan connections above your phone calling plan. So when you go in, you buy a data plan, you buy a phone. I wanted to give you a breakdown. Now, here's how it works. When you go in, you need to get a data plan. You need to get, so you're paying beyond your minutes. Think of this as a separate total plan. When you buy a smartphone, first of all, you have to get the data plan. This is not an option. You have to buy a data plan. So your lowest for Verizon, we're going to talk Verizon first, and we'll go into AT&T, but Verizon starts at 2 gigabytes a month for $30. Mm-hmm. There used to be an unlimited plan that me and Terry both have right now. You grandfathered in if you had it previously. So we're grandfathered in now.
And I know for a fact that when I went over to the Nexus, I said very clearly to them, hey, if I can't be grandfathered in, then I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, because you're going to use it more. And I always thought it was kind of funny how they kind of come up with tiered plans after these phones become so prevalent, because everybody wants to use them more. So now you're going to restrict people. It makes no sense to me. But they're doing it because it's a money-making scheme, in my opinion. And here's what I'm going to get into. Unlimited plans were $30 a month. We still have that same price. But 2-3 years down the road, they can always come out with an announcement saying that people with unlimited plans, we're discontinuing that as well. You have to move to one of our tier plans. So don't think that you're going to get to keep that plan forever. They're going to eventually figure out a way to get you off that plan. So I guess right now, enjoy it while it lasts, the way I look at it. Now, their 2 gigabyte plan is $30, where we have unlimited for $30. But anybody who's going to look at this now, don't even worry about unlimited, because it's not an option anymore. So you get 2 gigabytes at $30 a month. They say that is the average user equivalent of what you would use per month. Now, if you go over that 2 gigabytes, it's $10 for every gigabyte over. Now, they have another plan where it's 5 gigabytes for $50 a month and 10 gigabytes for $80 a month. Now, for every one of those plans, it's currently saying it's about $10 for every gigabyte over, which I'll be honest with you is not real bad. A gigabyte is really, it's a lot. Even with my unlimited, I haven't even gotten to 5 gigs yet. But I'll be honest with you, I don't stream Netflix that much. Your biggest killer in your gigabytes is going to be streaming movies and television shows. You got to know that now. You're not meant to be watching TV on your phone all the time. It's good for something for a quick fix. We're going out. My daughter's in the back seat. I can hand her the phone, let her watch SpongeBob or something on Netflix. It's good for something like that. Or you're sitting at the restaurant table and they need something to do. You kind of let them do that. But you don't want to get into the habit of watching hours of TV every day, or you're going to be paying.
Yeah, I can't think of a time that I've probably went over 4 gigs. I think maybe there was a time we went on a pretty long trip, and I let my 10-year-old kind of sit back there and watch some stuff and do some things, and I think I got up close to 4. But man, 5, that is a ton. I just can't see getting to that level.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, some people they have caps on what, like, if your tower. Verizon does something that I really like in this respect, that if you get overloaded, if you're one of the high end users and use a lot of data, they will throttle your speeds down. Okay, which a lot of people don't like. And by the way, AT&T does this too, but they don't do it quite the same way. AT&T throttles you. If you're a high end user, they throttle you down substantially and keep you there till the end of the month. Verizon will throttle you down if the tower is overloaded, and as soon as you go to a different area where you hook to a different tower, they put you back up again. And AT&T does this to their unlimited people because they had carried their previous people over as well, and they no longer offer it either. But it's almost like they're trying to penalize people for having it, so they can try to get you off of it. And that's that's what I feel like they're doing.
Right.
But I think for any average user, 2 gigs would probably be enough.
Right.
If you're a techie and you like to watch videos and you like to download a lot of things over the air, when I say over the air, that's usually your connection to the Verizon towers. If there's stuff like podcasts, like that I do, I try to do most of it on Wi-Fi when I'm at home, and then every now and then I might download one over the air. But I try to save my bandwidth as much as possible. Mm-hmm. But let me talk a little bit about the AT&T plan. They have their starting plans at 250 megabytes for tablet only. That's $14.99 a month. That's actually pretty expensive for 250 megabytes, and that's only for a tablet. That's not much at all, and
No.
That's ridiculous to be honest with you. And then they go to 300 megabytes for smartphones for $20 a month. They go to 3 gigabytes for tablets and smartphones for $30 a month, which is 1 gigabyte more than Verizon. But they, by the way, they claim to have 4G service, but it's not as good as Verizon. Everybody knows this. This is fact too, by the way. And then you have 5 gigabytes for smartphones and tablets and internet devices, which are your hotspots and your like modems that you would hook up to a little laptop, like those little netbooks that you can get. That's $50 monthly. So as you can see, I mean, the plans vary. They're within the same price range, more or less, but I believe Verizon has a better service. I know people have had bad service with AT&T. They've had bad service with Verizon. But in my opinion, Verizon's the better one because they have much better network.
Well, let me ask you this. Verizon, when we were grandfathered in, unlimited, is that really unlimited or is there a cap there?
I asked the same question because I had heard previously that there was actually kind of a unspoken 5 gig cap a month on unlimited. But I looked it up recently, and according to what I've read, now, I don't want anybody to go by what I'm saying. You definitely should call Verizon. But from what I've read, it is actually unlimited. Like there is no limit, and I have yet to get an email saying I've come close to any type of limit. Now, I haven't used it a lot though. I like knowing it's there. It's almost like one of those when you know it's there, you're not going to. But I have a feeling if you're paying for that 5 gigabyte a month plan, you're probably going to try to use it. Now, I am going to tell you this, that Verizon is contemplating a family data share plan, which means you could spend the $80 a month for 10 gigabytes and share it between you, your wife, your daughter, which would be good if you have, say, 3 or more people. So I guess what I want to find out is that for all devices, too. Can I have a tablet on that as well, even if I have the tablet? So these are a couple of questions. They're looking at, I believe, summertime. They said they were contemplating this. So I guess I have to wait and see. I'm not really sure, but I definitely wanted to go over the data plans here because they're pretty costly, and a lot of people don't know what's going on with them.
Right. Yeah, especially these days when, everybody's like, wow, we can take this out. People are losing their jobs all the time, and the cost of gas, and who in the world has $80 a month just to go on 10 gigs of this and $50 for 5 gigs of that? I mean, that could get really nasty. It's
driving me crazy. Everybody wants money every month. Everybody wants to hit you for the back end. Everybody, I mean, it's, I don't know, it's crazy. Everybody's trying to suck you dry, in my opinion, and that's what's kind of adding up on people. Everybody looks at it like, ooh, it's $5 a month or it's $30 a year, but it adds up. It's all the little ones that keep adding up that drive your monthly bill up. I have a PS3. I believe you work off of Xbox, correct?
I have the Xbox 360.
Okay,
correct.
Yeah. Now, my PS3 internet service has they started not too long ago a premium version of it, but they still have the free online service where you can play other people online. I don't have to pay anything to be on it, and I like it that way because I don't really need their premium spot because they're not really, to me, they don't offer anything that's worth paying their price. Now, Xbox, you have to pay for, what is it, a gold, a silver? Can you explain how that works?
To be honest with you, I get on there. I play a little bit of Madden. My 2 older boys, they do the whole live thing. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not exactly sure. I know that they, at one point, were, they had to buy the little cards and, it was Christmas gifts and so on and so forth that they wanted. Then all of a sudden, they stopped doing it because they said, this is outrageous. I mean, we're not even getting our usage out of it. But I wish I could explain a little bit more to you. I do not know the exact answer to that, though.
Can you don't remember what the membership a year is? I heard that it's about $50 a year to get basically the Xbox 360 premium service.
I'm thinking that now this was about maybe 6 or 7 months ago, maybe even a little longer than that. I think you're right on. I think it's very close to that. I think it was for a year. It was like $49.99. I believe
like
you're
their
right
gold plan or something along the line.
I think it was something like that.
I've always been curious about getting the Xbox 360. Now, these are very high-end systems. Now, the Xbox doesn't have an HD player. They went with the HD game a little while ago, but they lost. They had like an external drive you could hook up to it to play the HD, but Blu-ray won. Xbox, there's been rumors that they were going to talk about the new Xbox coming out. They announced recently that they are not going to be announcing a new Xbox at the E3 conference. E3 is basically the big video game conference they have every year, announcing new hardware, new games. It's when they bring the companies in to show them, hey, here's what we got. Here's our ware, and here's the games. And they want to show everybody what's coming. But companies like to hold back their announcements on major things until they're right there and ready to come out. Because what happens is, what are you going to do if you hear that the Xbox 500 or 560 is coming out? Are you going to go buy the Xbox 360 knowing the new one's around the corner?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So your sales are going to drop. This is pretty much what I think is going to happen. I think there is no new Xbox coming this year. I think, if anything, it's at least the announcement itself is another year or two away, as well as PS3. Sony announced that the PS3 had a 10-year life before they were going to think about upgrading it. They lost so much money. It took them this long just to kind of start grouping a profit. And, of course, everybody knows about the disaster that happened in Japan. That hurt them bad. Year before that, they had a really big situation where people hacked into the system and were able to get credit card information. Sony was hurt in many ways. PR, they didn't tell people what happened in the beginning. Then when they finally did admit what happened, they had to shut the service down over a month to a month and a half. I'm going to tell you what, I was really pissed off. I wanted to play my system. I couldn't even get on to watch Netflix. That was really what ticked me off. Right. Because Netflix, that's how I watch Netflix on our major TV.
Right.
But, you know, a lot of companies, they like to stir up a buzz, but I'm telling you right now, there is no new Xbox coming out anytime soon. So everybody can forget about that. There's years before you see a new system. And then if it does come out, you can expect that Sony will probably come out with theirs a year or two later. Because that's usually how it works. And then the new Wii and all these new systems that are coming out. I haven't heard anything about a new Wii system. I think they got lucky, but the Wii is a novelty item. It sold well in the beginning. I think it was a hyped system, and I'll be honest with you, I think they kept their stock back to keep the hype going. Because remember when when the Wii came out, you couldn't get your hands on one for a long time.
Right. Sure.
They kept. I believe they purposely kept the shortage in the market because that was a way of building hype. It seems to be the way everybody does it now. They create a shortage. They get the hype going. They tell people it's going to be a week or two before they get more systems. It builds hype. It builds a lot of people want to get out there. They want to get a hold of the system. So, because PS3 was sort of like that, but not as bad. Xbox 360, you know, in my opinion, the PS3 is a superior system in every way. It updates all the time, and I have one of the original ones. I have a 60 gigabyte version from a week after it first came out when it was $600. It has a Blu-ray player, which you can update it all the time because it does over-the-air updates.
And from what I understand, it's a very nice Blu-ray player, not just a standard piece of junk. From what I understand, it's very good. Right?
It's fantastic. I can also stream things off my computer, so I can play movies off my computer down, which I have located in my basement. In the second floor of my house, where my PS3 is, I can stream over the air through my Wi-Fi movies to my TV. I also play Netflix through my PS3, and I've had it for all these years. Never once has it broke down on me. Have I had any overheating issues? It's froze up maybe twice in all the years I've had it.
Yeah, I think we're on our second one now. I think we're on our second Xbox. Was it that Ring of Death? It ended up getting us pretty good, and we ended up having to send it. I mean, they did send us another one, but it's an inconvenience, you know, because it takes a couple of weeks in order to get anything.
Oh, I've heard so many people pissed off the fact that their Xbox is broke. I had a person that I talked to not too long ago. Their system had been sent out. It took them 2 months to get it back.
Right.
What I read, and here's what happened with the Xbox 360. The red Ring of Death actually was popular with the very first Xbox system. And what happened was they had finalized the list of hardware, and it was approved by Microsoft. The system ran great. And then a few people came in, heard what the PS3 had, and then they started making hardware changes. And the engineers who engineered this system already knew there was going to be issues because they didn't mean it to run like that. So it was going to have heating issues. And the red ring of death, all these issues you hear with these systems, it's heat. Heat is electronics' worst enemy. If there's not proper ventilation, if they don't screw things down with the heat sinks inside the systems down good enough, you're going to have overheating. That's when your system's going to fail. That's why people are worried about these new iPads having a heating issue, because they're afraid that it's going to make the device fail. We haven't seen that happen yet, but there's always one or two that you hear, oh, it blew up in my pocket or something like that. I don't think that's going to be a problem, but it'll be interesting to hear in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure we're going to hear some stories about it. I know we're getting kind of near the end of the show here, and I did have something I wanted to talk about real quick that we didn't get to yet, and it's kind of jumping back to sports. So we're a little out of sequence here. By the way, Terry, how can we get some people to call us or email us again? Do you want to get us the information?
Well, absolutely. Thestatementshow at gmail.com. And look, we had a few people, get in touch with us, but hey, it's been all guys. Where are the ladies at? Come on.
Yeah, because a lot of sports and tech ladies out there.
Yeah, well,
Prove us wrong. Give us an email.
You look at it and you go, okay, they're talking about sports. They're talking about gaming. They're talking about tech. This is boring. Well, hey, we're equal opportunity on this show. We would like for you, email us, thestatementshow at gmail.com. If you got something to talk about, hey, we can take a look at it. We'll do what we can. And for those guys that did subscribe to us this week, thank you guys very much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. Because little by little, we're building up our listenership. We definitely want to be consistent, get you a show every week. And hopefully down the road, we'll start adding more shows per week. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Look for The Statement Show on Facebook and The Statement Show on Twitter. Terry, after we get done with the show, Terry puts us on YouTube. So you can all get on Terry's case. Make sure that gets on YouTube as fast as possible. So you can subscribe through YouTube. You can get to us at The Statement at pod.podbean.com. That's podbean.com. And subscribe to us that way. We'll be on iTunes soon, and you can subscribe to us that way as well. But let's get back to what I was going to talk about. I wanted to talk about the salary caps. I remember last week we had talked a little bit about it, and I got a little bit more facts here. The salary cap started in the 90s, and it was started down to the low 30s. Every year it's progressively gotten more. I believe last year it was somewhere about $123 million. This year, 2012, they say it's roughly around $120 million. That's a cap for each team for the year, I believe. Now, in the news, if anybody hasn't been following, Cowboys and Redskins apparently were singled out by the NFL, and they penalized them. They feel like there was some collusion going on, that they had basically all the clubs had gotten together, and they basically had a gentleman's agreement on what they were going to do, which, if anybody doesn't know, the 2010 year was an uncapped year. So they felt that Cowboys and Redskins, they singled them out for basically causing some kind of collusion situation, and they were penalized $46 million off the cap for the next 2 years. And it's broke down that Cowboys are penalized $10 million a year for the next 2 years off their cap, and then the Redskins are penalized $36 million off their cap for the next 2 years. Now, Terry, can you explain to me have you read anything about this? Do you really know what's going on?
Well, basically what they're looking at is they're, now this again is just kind of rumor, just some speculating that's going on, but from what I'm understanding, the Cowboys and the Redskins are both planning on taking this to an independent arbitrator.
Oh yeah, they're definitely not happy.
They're planning on fighting this tooth and nail. And to be honest with you, look, here's from everything that I've heard, the Redskins, GM Bruce Allen, came out and said, look, we followed everything. As a matter of fact, you guys, the NFL, signed off on everything. So if indeed the NFL did sign off on all the salaries and all the contracts, The Redskins were doing everything that they should be doing. You know what? If I was Dan Snyder, if I was Jerry Jones, I would be suing the ass off of the NFL right now. I mean, to be honest with you, it is absurd. $36 million. Now, hey, if the Redskins weren't playing by the rules, and it was very clear, the NFL made this very, very clear, there will be basically what happened was they were saying, this is how this is going to be. And if anybody decides that they're going to do something different, then you will be penalized. Well, NFL decided that the Cowboys and the Redskins had kind of shied away from what they were supposed to be doing. They nailed them on it. But again, Jerry Jones and Dan Snyder think that they have done absolutely nothing wrong. And if they didn't, they are being penalized pretty hardcore, especially the Redskins, $36 million over 2 years.
I guess
it's huge.
From what I've read, these two teams are more wealthy. They have more money than basically the other teams, right. And they feel like these teams had colluded together to kind of swing things more in their favor in the 2010 year,
right.
Half year.
That is correct.
So, honestly, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think they stand a chance of reversing the decision?
You know what? I hope for this because basically they were looking at what the NFL considered as equal playing ground. Well, you know what? Look, the Redskins were 5-11, 6-10 last year. They went through a good bit last year, as well did the Cowboys. Hell, they didn't even make the playoffs. Neither one of them made the playoffs. I mean, what more equal playing ground do you need at this point? And it's just it's absurd. I mean, the Redskins, I doubt very seriously would have tried to make the deal that they did for Robert Griffin III if they had known they were going to be penalized like this. I mean, they gave up essentially their draft for the next 3 years, at least their number ones. If they had known that they were going to be penalized like this, and for the NFL to come so late or so close to the free agency, it's just absurd to me. I hope that for the sake of the NFL, which is it's a huge cash cow. I mean, we all know this. I mean, it's easily the number one sport in America. I hope for the NFL that they get this right. And again, if the Cowboys and Redskins did something wrong, they deserve to be penalized. But if they didn't, come on, get off their back, give them their money back, and let's do this.
Yeah.
Going back to something though, when we were with your brother, we kind of got into the Peyton Manning thing. Basically, with the whole salary cap, you have teams right now, such as the Redskins, that were going to have $35, $36, $40 million. And then you have teams such as, say, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have about maybe $5, $6 million left on their cap this year. With Peyton Manning, the things that I've been hearing the most are, why would Peyton Manning want to go to the Broncos? Why would he want to do that? Well, look, the Peyton Manning is going to get paid rather well. 5 years, $90-some million. And guess what? The Broncos are still going to have a ton of money left over in order to get them somebody in there. I mean, for instance, I'll just make up somebody right now. If they decided to go after Pittsburgh's wide receiver, Mike Wallace, who is a restricted free agent, basically what that means is Pittsburgh can say, you know what, we want to match anything that someone else does. Okay, so if the Broncos said, I'm going to go after Mike Wallace this year, and we're going to go, all guns blazing on this, we're going to offer him, some absurd money that obviously Pittsburgh cannot match, and then give up their number one, which the Broncos have the 25th pick this year. Hey, if I could get a number one receiver to be able to go with Peyton Manning for basically the 25th pick, and then turn around and pay him an absurd amount of money, which he's going to get paid anyway, I would do that no problem. I mean, it's a no-brainer for me, especially considering the fact that, Peyton Manning is looking at throwing at Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker this year. Mm-hmm. If they could add someone like Mike Wallace, maybe even his tight end from Indianapolis, Dallas Clark, or Jacob Tamme, someone like that, the Broncos could be pretty strong. But I mean, hey, don't fear. I mean, if you're a Steelers fan and you're saying, wow, we're getting rid of, arguably one of our best receivers, hey, now all of a sudden the Steelers have the 23rd and the 25th pick this year, or in this coming draft. And hey, the Steelers are notorious for making great picks. They are one of the few teams that if their starter goes out, they have a backup that can go right in their place. I mean, I know we kind of got off subject a little bit with the salary cap, but, you know, it all kind of plays in year to year. And yeah, you know, I mean, with all that being said, I really do. I hope the Cowboys and the Redskins can really get this straightened out, and the NFL can get it straightened out for the best. I mean, I love the NFL. I know a lot of people do, you know, and you don't want somebody just dictating over it and saying, well, this is what we think, especially if they really did these contracts the way that they said they did. If the NFL signed off on this, they give the Cowboys and the Redskins their money back, and let's play some serious football here.
Oh, I agree. I think it's going to be a good year. And this will all get worked out here, and I believe in the next couple of weeks. But I know we want to kind of bring this show here down to a close. We've talked a lot about tech. We've talked a lot about sports, and I wanted to get into talking a bit about some of the TV shows and some other entertainment and some other news, and we will. But this has kind of been the stuff that's been dominating the news lately, so we really wanted to talk about this. So I just want everybody to know we will definitely talk about some other topics. So this is not a sports-dominated show, although it has been for the last couple. So not that it won't be a big focus like tech, but we will talk about some other things, and we'll get to that probably next week. Because I think next week we're going to cover a little bit more about The Walking Dead and the series finale that just happened that I thought was really good. But I want to get to, I want to bring this everything to close and let everybody know to remember to send us an email at thestatementshow@gmail.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Any last comments you want to get out there?
I heard that my man George Clooney got arrested. So only thing I can say, George Clooney, call me.
Well, this is Zach and Terry. We thank you for joining us. And I just want to say we're all here for a purpose. Make yours count. Good night. Send us an email or voicemail as an MP3 to thestatementshow@gmail.com. Please keep all voicemails to 30 seconds maximum, please. Also follow us on Twitter at The Statement Show and Facebook. Theme music provided by podcastthemes.com. For professional studio quality podcast theme music and voiceovers, go to podcastthemes.com.